And welcome back to the Dean Obeidallah Show. It is Friday, February 23rd, and the third hour on Friday can only mean one thing on this show, and it's called What Just Happened. As we look back at the insanity of the week, I'm joined by three great comedians, two returning champions, and a new person. So I'll introduce the new person first, our friend Laura Laham. She'll be your friend. She's my friend. She's performed around North America, the Middle East. She was in the New York Arab American Comedy Festival, and recently in the New York Comedy Festival. Laura, welcome to What Just Happened on
Hi,
the Dean Obeidallah Show. Good to see you.
good to see you. Thank you for having me.
Sure. Also back, Scott Blakeman is here, one of the top political comics in the U.S., performed all over the country, numerous television appearances, and we co-created the show called Stand Up for Peace, which has failed, apparently. But good to
Well,
see
no,
you.
they need us more than ever now, but we'll see. Our time will come again with that. But great to see you, Dean. Great to be back.
And look who's back, Kevin Dombrowski, who's now performing across the U.S. against the desires of Americans. He's got his new comedy album out called Stay at Home Kevin, which just came out last month. Congratulations on your new album. And good to see you, Kevin.
Thanks, pal. It's good to see you. My time has also come again, so I'm excited about that.
Do you mean because Trump might win and white people will be back in power?
I can always count on you to read through the lines, Dean.
That's all. That's what I figure it is. Because, so there's a lot going on. All right, let's talk first of all a little bit about Trump. On CNN, reporter MJ Lee literally said on air, which I think is I found it amusing, that the Joe Biden had told his team they have to highlight the quote crazy shit said by Donald Trump, and she said crazy shit on air, which I don't curse much, but I thought it was appropriate. But first of all, if you're going to call out Trump's crazy shit, that's all you're doing all day. I mean, there's nothing else you'll ever be talking about policy. You're just talking about, like last night, he said insane things about a snake. I'm not even kidding. Not the old thing, like snake and Steak Hill, and nothing made sense. So, Laura, do you think, is it a good strategy for Team Biden to only be talking about Trump's crazy shit?
Just parroting it. I mean, I feel like at that point, if you're gonna tell somebody like, "Hey, only talk about Trump's crazy shit," they're gonna just respond with like, "Can you please be more specific?"
Like, which crazy shit are you talking about? That kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like what in particular? Like you said, it's like there's nothing that comes out of his mouth that hasn't just confused me to my very core.
So, Scott, what about you? And first, and the other thing I really love is that it's cable news. They should curse more. I don't understand why newscasters don't curse more. It's kind of fun. Like, you are cable news. It could be after 8 o'clock and just like, today the fucking stock market crashed. Everything you've got in your portfolio is gone. And again, I don't curse much, but giving an example.
Right. It'd be like the Sopranos of the news. That's the advantage to broadcast news. But I mean, I'm a journalism. I was studying journalism at Northwestern, so I'm a little old school about that. I mean, maybe shouldn't have to say it, but it's more important what he's saying. The problem is, I mean, I do think, and I was a copywriter before I did comedy. I have an ad campaign for Joe Biden. It should be, I may be old, but he's insane. Or I may be old, but I'm not crazy. So you got to call it to yourself and then point it out. But I don't think it's enough because, all of us here maybe, I don't know about Kevin, but most people say like, yeah, that's all crazy. But a lot of people don't think it's crazy. And that's the problem, to assume that everyone agrees with us. So I think that can't be the whole strategy, because otherwise, how would he be in a position now stronger than he was really when he was even president?
Because America's ending. That's why. But Kevin, by the way, when we refer to Kevin, he's not really a MAGA person. I don't know what his politics is, but he's not really. I joke just in case people don't know that. If they haven't seen him for a while on the show. Like, it's not like he's here to be the MAGA point of view.
Don't you dare break character with me.
So I'm being nice for a second. All right. So Kevin, at the MAGA rallies, how does this break? So what do you think? Do you just call out his crazy shit? Is that what you do? And do you call it that? Like, should Biden curse himself?
Yeah.
And go like, this
well,
guy's
first
just
off,
saying crazy shit. I mean, seriously.
Well, the guy's, he's I think he's in his 80s at this point, so it doesn't.
Biden's 81.
Yeah. So all right. So he's 81. So the fact that he's not cursing every other word, I think, is a miracle. That guy should be cursing when he wakes up in the morning just from waking up. You know what I mean? So I think the fact that he's not cursing says more for his cognitive decline than if he were to curse. But yeah, I think you should be. Look, you should talk like a regular American talks. And that's what the appeal, I think, to Trump of his base was that he talked like a regular American, or like they talked. You know, I don't think he lived the life that they live,
No.
but he talked like them. So that was that. I mean, look, you know me, I'm as middle of the road politics, which is what you call right, but I'm as middle of the road politics as you can be.
Pick a
So-
side. Just pick a side. I
ju-
don't care if you pick the other side. Just pick a side. This middle of the road stuff is such bullshit. But
I
go
just,
ahead.
you know what, Scott, I pick my politics by what I hate on both sides. I really don't love
interesting.
anything. So I just think any side playing defense rather than offense is hurting themselves. And as funny as it is to highlight Trump's crazy shit, which, by the way, Trump highlights Biden's crazy shit, I think you're just in this echo chamber and microcosm of itself. So you're not really gaining any ground. You're just going, well, at least I'm not that guy. But we've been doing this election for 8 years of at least I'm not him. That's, you know, it's like when I fight with my wife, I'm like, at least I don't do that. And she's like, you just crashed the car. You're like, yeah, but at least I wasn't drunk. Like, how crazy is that?
Like, it could be worse. You don't know my potential. Last night, I'm reading from a transcript. I'm not kidding. From Trump at an event, said the people are pouring over. It's sort of known as Steak Mountain, Steak Hill, Snake, a lot of snakes. They think they're rattlesnakes. I am not kidding. That is literally the stream of consciousness speech that Trump gave. There's something deeply, like, you can see the connective tissue, how you get to here. He's showing his work, but you don't do that as a normal person. There's something deeply wrong with him. Between the rattlesnakes and the rough terrain and the steepness, they said no one's coming. The people coming over by the thousand, it's crazy. We let them come over. Snake Hill, snake, a lot of snakes. They think they're rattlesnakes. He literally said that.
He's a one-man improv troupe. He just yes ands himself.
He gives himself suggestions.
Right.
Steak Hill, over the hill.
But you know, again, what I was saying before, though, people hear that, and the Republicans will always say the same thing. Oh, that Donald Trump. He doesn't speak like a regular politician. Donald Trump just says what's on his mind. So it doesn't even impact people. I mean, as crazy as it is, what you quoted, Dean, I mean, it really isn't enough. People don't go, wait a minute, I see Trump in a different light now. He is insane. So he's been saying this. It is worse now. I do think he's even more unhinged if that's possible, and 91 indictments. But it really, I agree with Kevin that you really have to say, okay, people care about the economy. They care about, and even though I do think Biden's done an excellent job, it hasn't translated into a lot of people feeling that. So they need to focus on that. And maybe it's just because people are depressed in general. It has nothing to do with Biden. But I don't think it's enough because people know it already. And sadly, CNN highlights it, and MSNBC and all these places, when they should spend time covering other things too. The best way to fight Trump is not to talk about him, in a way, not to cover him, even though I know you have to, because he is dangerous.
It is. Laura, do you think, getting back to the other issue, do you think younger people would watch cable news if there was more cursing on it?
I feel like the only way to get younger people to watch cable news is to, first of all, make it vertical, give it to them on their phones, and then only give them 6 seconds at a time. Otherwise, you don't have our attention. I'm sorry.
So it's got to be like, what's the limit? Like, it's got to be like a 60s. Here's the Middle East in 60 seconds. Here's climate change in 38
60
seconds.
seconds. You think you have 60 seconds of our attention? You have 6 to get it. And if you curse in the first 3, then I'm probably going to pay attention. Yes.
That would be hilarious to see, like, a BuzzFeed article, like top 60 things to do in the Israel-Palestine conflict. And you're like,
right, each thing. And then they just keep pointing like that, and words pop up, that kind of stuff. Oh boy. It's what just happened. We're continuing our conversation here with Scott, Kevin, and Laura. So I found this interesting. So the grift with Trump never ends. I mean, he is the king grifter. So now he went to SneakerCon, which is the real name, is the convention, like Comic-Con, but SneakerCon. Apparently it's huge for sneakerheads. They really go. He goes to Philadelphia and hawks the new gold-covered, top-of-the-line, high top, called the Never Surrender high top sneaker, $399. And if you're not into high tops, there are 2 others. There's the T Red Wave, which is a red sneaker, and then there's a white one dubbed the POTUS 45. Both have a big T and number 45. Allegedly, the high top sold out. They only had 1,000 of them. I don't know if it's true or not. We never know. He licensed his name, and he showed up at this event in Philadelphia. He showed up. It's in the middle of the campaign, and where he got booed, half as many boos as cheers. Like, it was a very odd thing to see this. Kevin, I mean, you were one of the first 1,000 to get this sneaker. So can you show us?
Well, sure. If you look here, no. Well, first off, what size foot is he? Because I know he's got tiny hands. So is it like
He's like a 3. He's like a ballerina's feet.
dude, you know what's so funny? This has like shades of a comic hawking merch when they're on stage, which is always like it's like such a pet peeve on the road. I have trouble saying hi to people after shows, let alone writing a whole, 3-minute pitch with punchlines in it about how can you please buy more shit from me so I can go home with more money. I think what he's missing is that pitch. I think he just brought it out. He presented gold high tops, and they were like, you need to do better than that. He should have had some gigantic pitch with it.
That's interesting. Laura, you sell a lot of merch during your shows. Is this true? Like, no, I'm kidding. I don't know if you have any merch. No, because Kevin's right. I've seen comics who go, when I used to open, they're like, okay, can you hold this shirt up? Like I was part of the act. Like headliners.
Well, don't say used to, Dean. Don't say used to.
No one will let me open for them anymore. It's not that I don't want to open. No one will book me. Like,
right.
I've seen your act. That I don't want that before I go on. Like I want the audience. Once I was actually, this is completely true. I was booked to perform at the LPGA Jamie Farr Classic, a women's golf tournament, and Jamie Farr's Arab American, and it was like years ago. And so Casey and the Sunshine Band were the headliners, and I was going to open, and they had to show them my video of doing stand-up, and the feedback from KC was that they were afraid I was going to depress the audience by talking about being Arab. I'm not here. But Jamie Farr stood up for me. So I opened for Casey and the Sunshine Band at this Akron, Ohio convention center, which wasn't perfect for comedy, but in any event, and it was just kind of fun.
Let me guess, you were more Italian that night.
No, I was because it was a mix because Jamie Farr is Lebanese American and it was his thing. So, but the funniest thing is like I only got 15 minutes, and at 13 minutes, smoke starts coming out to get ready for KC. That's seeping out from under curtains are surrounding me on stage, and the opening line KC did was actually funny. KC was from the 1970s, still around. He's like sort of hefty now, and he says, "I'm Justin Timberlake in 25 years." Like that was his opening line, which was kind of a funny line. So.
By the way, Dean, that's a great idea, for comics who always run the light. Just have
smoke them out,
start appearing, and then they'll get off.
Laura, have you done any corporate gigs? Have you done any kind of weird things on the road where like you're opening for some odd act yet?
Oh my God, no, thank the Lord.
Can you be in Tampa next month?
1,000%. Let's go. You think I don't want these stories? I want some of Dean's stories. Let's go.
You want to be in an Akron, Ohio convention center for Jamie. I sat at a table. It was Jamie Farr and Paul Williams. Do you know the writer and singer? I think he's still alive. He wrote some classic songs, but he was friends with Jamie Farr. So it was what a weird, odd thing in my life. It's kind of fun. These are the stories that I carry around with me.
You know what really gets me about the Donald Trump sneaker thing, not to bring your show back on track, but
no, please do.
I think it's
stop it. We're going to cut all this out.
I'm not even on the episode tonight.
We're muting Kevin. It's going to pixelate and just like garble. Go ahead.
Dare whenever you cut to me, which is what it normally is. What I like about these is they're called the Never Surrender. He literally has a mugshot from turning himself in. It's the funniest. It's how he talks when he says the ramparts were wide or whatever he said that one time in the speech. As a comic, my biggest pet peeve is when people mess up words and then speed past them and pretend like they meant to say them. I hate when people do that. So when he does that in his speeches, I'm like you just said that, and you just made it into a compound word.
He said it was sarcasm.
Else.
Last week we talked about it. He defended his mental gaffes as sarcasm.
Right.
So apparently you're being sarcastic when you say something that makes no sense, like steak kill snake, rattlesnake.
Right. So then he comes out, he sells headshots on a t-shirt, and then he comes out with shoes that say Never Surrender. It's like, dude, you just turned yourself in. It doesn't make sense to me.
On Fox News, Laura, by the way, one of the idiots who's a regular guest, and his name escapes me, actually said the sneakers that he's selling is going to make young black people vote for Donald Trump more. And it was a white guy who said that. I'm like, wow. So if he sells falafel, then all of a sudden us Arab Americans can be like, that's our guy. The guy selling falafel, making money on it. But there's also a racist component to what the guy said on Fox News. It's so obvious. I mean,
That's shocking to hear that on Fox, anything racist.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's a rare moment of.
I'll be
Christmas.
on later tonight, by the way.
Are you going to be on Greg Gutfeld? Have you been on Gutfeld's show?
I've not been on Gutfeld. I'm a fan of Jimmy Fallon, though. I like him. He's a good comic.
I used to do comedy with Jimmy. He was a nice guy as a comic. Then when he went to Fox News, he became weird. You know, like he wanted to troll and fight on Twitter. I'm like, I'm not fighting you on Twitter, Jimmy. So I had to openly block him. It's like years ago. Like, I'm just not doing this. I don't understand.
I feel like Twitter's like a haven for the left and right to meet. You guys are like gangs of New York when you get on Twitter. And then, sorry to break the fourth wall, but everyone's friends behind the scene.
Well, Jimmy was a nice guy. No, I used to bump into him all the time because Fox News was right across from SiriusXM and we'd see each other and chat and stuff.
Right.
But then online, it became like, I'm not doing the theater with you. Like, we're not playing this game. All right, so let's continue with our conversation here. So I found this really interesting. Alexei Navalny, who was a Russian dissident, pro-democracy activist, he was imprisoned by Putin. To remind people, Putin tried to kill him with a unique form of poison years before, but Navalny went back to Russia because that's how committed he was to democracy. He died in jail last week. To this moment, Donald Trump has still not criticized Putin for either imprisoning him or killing him. Instead, he makes himself the Navalny of America. Do you think, Laura, in the analogy of Trump, of Putin, and Navalny, who do you think Trump more aligns with in that? Is it the guy who died for pro-democracy or the anti-democracy guy who has no problem killing people to stay in power?
I'm honestly, I don't know if this is performance art at this point. If this, like, what Trump is doing is performance art, because like I have no words. Like, I don't understand how to even formulate a thought around him making this equivalency.
Just to go to another topic. Like we all mean Kevin and Scott do. Whenever we want to talk about the actual issue, we go like, you know what, that reminds me of something in third grade. And or whatever. No, but you're right, because it's so over the top. Because in the analogy of Putin and Navalny, Trump is Putin. Trump incited a terrorist attack on our capital. And so to make himself the pro-democracy activist is laughable. And you're right, he almost has the smell of like performance artists who are just pretending they built a whole fake persona and their own little wall that they're out there, like their own live theater all the time because it's all fake. But he says this, and then on Fox News, they repeat that Trump is Navalny. Trump won't criticize Putin. I mean, Scott, what do you think? Trump refuses to criticize Putin.
Oh, well, it's nothing. He worships Putin and all dictators and strongmen. And he's said that if he gets elected president, any country that doesn't pay their share of NATO, he's going to tell Russia to do whatever the hell they want with them. So he's encouraging Russia to do what it's done to Ukraine and invade. But no, he loves Putin. In fact, some say that Putin has, what's the word they use?
Compromise.
Yeah,
that's the word I use.
It's a great picture
in my spy conventions.
Right.
Someone's got compromise on someone.
Yeah, no, when they met early in his term, you see Trump walking out of there like, okay, he knows stuff about me. But it's disgusting. I mean, and I agree with Laura. I mean, it's so beyond the pale. I mean, how do we do comedy about it? Because it is on a whole crazy level. But also, and he said, yeah, he's like Navalny because he's being persecuted. Everything he says, by the way, is the opposite of the truth. He calls other people losers, but he's the loser. And I think so, everything is like a bizarre world with him, but it's really, that's a scary thing. I mean, it's funny in a way, but then if he is reelected, which people, in Europe, they're pretty much planning on that. And so to actually say Navalny, who is the ultimate hero, and Trump is the ultimate coward, and to even say that is just incredible. But then once again, though, did any Republicans say, "Oh, that was beyond over the line, that Navalny comment"? No, they just say that's Donald Trump. He's just saying it's on his mind, which is nothing, but that's what he says.
Kevin, you're the Navalny of this show. Because we make a lot of jokes at your expense. So how does that feel that Trump would try to take your thunder and equate himself to Navalny?
Sure. Number one, thank you for finally recognizing my position on this program. It's been too long. Look, I think it's crazy timing that he happened to die while going against Putin. I think, what are the chances of that happening? That's a 1 in a million thing. But I also, it's like, Yeah, to call yourself, I guess to call yourself a political prisoner is pretty hilarious. I don't know if there is I don't know, maybe ask Mike Pence how he feels.
They
As
built
the
gallows around
yes,
to
the
kill him.
gallows as the gallows were being wheeled towards his office. I'm sure he feels like a Navalny. But look, this is a political playbook. You look for who people support, and then you find ways of doing that. I'm the Rudy of stand-up comedy.
Rudy Giuliani or Rudy from Notre Dame, from the Notre Dame movie?
Well, as we both drip hair dye down our cheek occasionally on a hot summer day. But no, I think Rudy from Notre Dame. No, you just find the underdog and you find a way of attaching yourself to that person, and it rallies people. It wouldn't surprise me if on the other side, if something shifted, if Donald Trump was like, I'm the this of that when that happens.
So, okay, so Scott, if Kevin is the Rudy of this, what are you, is there a movie figure that you feel like you'd be most aligned with besides, of course, I think Woody Allen all the time because of the way you deliver your jokes and your neurosis, which we all get living in New York. But to me, it's not Woody Allen generic. It would have to be like in maybe Annie Hall,
I would love that, and I'd be
Manhattan.
in a much better place in my career. And
or maybe
I'm one
not.
of those people too who I want to see Woody's new film. It's actually all in French, called Coup de Chance, and it is being distributed by a little distributor because everyone else talked about being cowardly. No one else wants to touch it, but it will be released. And I think he's one of our finest filmmakers. And so,
is there some movie figure that you're like, if Kevin is Rudy, what are you? Laura, you better give this some thought because we're gonna come to you next.
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching a lot of movies lately for the SAG voting here. So,
anyway, nothing.
It's just who's heroic or who's someone. I like Paul Giamatti in The Holdovers. I like to do
that was good. That's very good. See, if I was in Rudy, I'd be the Vince Vaughn character, Kevin, who was very arrogant and was like a jerk to Rudy the whole time. Then at the end, he has his moment where he evolves. There's an arc.
Sure. And then Matt behind the scenes is screaming, "Who's the wild one now?"
Right.
That's the John Favreau.
Laura, so is there any movie character at all that you feel you connect to that represents you?
First of all, I do need to say that I'm too young and beautiful to understand who any of these people are that you're talking about.
Rudy, rent it. Let's stop the show. You watch it. We'll come back. All right. Fair enough. It is an old movie. Go ahead.
I like, and then you mentioned a couple of other people. All of them sound
Woody Allen.
old.
Next, I'm going to do a whole 20 minutes on the French Connection. So Popeye Doyle. No, go ahead. You have no idea any of that means. I know. Go ahead. So go ahead. Is there any now? What about in today's movies? There's someone.
What TikTok star do you align with the most?
What influencer? If you could be any influencer, is there one, or is there a movie star? Not a movie star, like a character, like he's Rudy.
Okay, let me think through this for a second because I do feel I want to. My first reaction is to like pick the influencer with the most money. I just want. Yeah, that's give me some time to think this over. Hold on. We'll move on for now.
So we're going to come back. You're going to pass one of the rare passes. You get one pass a show. So that's Laura's
I have to pass.
Her pass. She's going to come back. She's going to regroup. All right. So let's take a break. We're going to take a break and Laura can think about it. We're going to come back and talk about some other things going on in the world, including the Alabama Supreme Court saying frozen embryos are people. And so is Soylent Green. Again, an old reference. Come on.
My God, Dean, come on.
That's really old. Soylent Green to people.
Just go to commercial. Man, cut us off.
We'll be right back after this quick break. Ready? We'll come back. And welcome back, Dean Obeidallah Show. It is still Friday, February 23rd. And again, all three comedians, for the rare occurrence, have remained. Laura Laham is here, Scott Blakeman, and Kevin Dombrowski. So, quick thing, Tuesday coming up in Michigan. This is political. Then we'll get to some of the other things that are sort of political. And there's the Michigan Democratic primary. And Rashida Tlaib, who's Palestinian American, is urging Democrats who are not happy with Biden's policies on Gaza to vote uncommitted. it's not, Biden still is going to win the primary. We know that, but it's to send a message. Laura, do you think this could work out? If they get like 20% of the vote, is it symbolic enough and potentially significant enough for Biden to go like, well, if I'm going to win Michigan in the general, I better do something on the policy here?
If it's something that does he need Michigan? That's the question.
In the general, he would. It's a swing state. That's a key state.
Okay. I feel like if he hasn't said anything by now, it's not going to matter. But I love the idea of showing up just to say that you're uncommitted. I want to do that in everything in my life. I want to show up. I'm going to go to work and just be like, just so you know, in terms of my job right now, I am uncommitted. Send a message. What do you think?
In personal
my boss
life?
would take it perfect. Yeah.
Right. And everything. So that's
everything.
Laura just says she's uncommitted, and that's the way we should all live our lives anyway. It doesn't matter. What about you, Scott? What do you think?
I think it's the right thing to do. I think any sign of protest against the horrible way the Biden administration has handled the Gaza conflict. I mean, it's almost like excruciating. But we told Israel, don't kill so many people. But we're going to give you 14 billion arms. Don't kill what do you mean so many? It's disgusting. And Biden, who I support, and I say this as a Jewish American who is appalled by the actions of the Netanyahu government. To me, it has nothing to do with being Jewish. This is to me, I'm not a legal scholar, but it certainly seems it'll be rising to the level of genocide, or at the very least, war crimes, as was the Hamas attack on October 7th. It was a war crime and a crime against humanity. But any way we could protest, we need to do it. And it's not enough to say, try not to kill so many people. Could you maybe not invade today? Maybe next Thursday might work. How about on the weekend when it's quiet? So no, and Biden and what Laura brought up, it's a huge state. And in Dearborn or wherever, it could really swing Michigan. But he shouldn't do it for that reason. Just the right reason is that the Netanyahu government is an ultra-right wing, some say fascist government that really supports, I hate to say this, the extermination of the Palestinian people in Gaza. They want to move them out somewhere else, like another Nakba catastrophe. So I'm glad that Sleb is doing that, and I'll never work at a synagogue again, but I'm fine with that.
You'll be on the self-hating Jew tour, right?
Yes,
yes.
That's
what Scott
actually
gets called. He gets.
I'll have
we've
to
been
sell
at
merch on
events
it,
where that's happened. But unfortunately for Scott. But just Scott, I have to be honest though. This idea of if you criticize Netanyahu policy, somehow some extreme voices will say it's anti-Semitic. Do you? I mean, if you're Jewish in America like you are, do you want to be defined by the policy of Netanyahu? I'm Muslim. I don't want my faith defined by Saudi Arabia or ISIS or Al Qaeda. In fact, I scream and say these guys don't represent my faith.
Absolutely.
So,
well, Dean, you've gone through this so much. You've talked about people say, well, you're a Palestinian American. Have you spoken out against it? Of course you do. Like everyone has to speak out. This isn't just now. As you know, we've been doing Stand Up Peace for 20 years. And the fact that what's really bothered me is that they're making this an anti-Semitic thing. Look, anti-Semitism is on the rise for various reasons. It's been here forever. White nationalism, helped along by Trump, is a prime booster of anti-Semitism. But if you're against the Israeli government, as I am in this prosecution of this war and their attitudes towards Palestinians, there's nothing anti-Semitic about that. In fact, there's nothing anti-Israel about it. It's just anti this particular government. But I hope that, and I've been a little quiet because I didn't want to get involved in social media and have people scream. But, I know some comedians are doing a show called Stand Up for Israel, and the money goes to the IDF. And that's why I want to do Stand Up for Peace again, because it's so not Jewish. And when I go to this temple and I read in the prayer book, it says, seek peace and pursue it. And so this is really by getting back to mission. Biden needs to be much stronger. And Israel, we have leverage over Israel. They don't deserve the $14 billion now to do what? To continue bombing whatever neighborhoods are left. 80% is destroyed. I mean, it's truly going to be one of the great catastrophes. And yet I saw one thing I just have to mention. Did you see this, Dean? An ad in the guise of like these travel ads, like come to Bermuda, but it was for Gaza. It was only running, I think, on Hulu. And it was like happy people drinking as if that's what you're supposed to do in Gaza. And it said, well, if only Hamas wasn't in charge, it could have been like this. And, it's things like that and the simplicity. Gaza was this poor place of all refugees from 1948 prior to Hamas taking over in 2005. And that there's been a blockade. They don't get any help. So, of course, we stand against Hamas, and what they did was horrific. But I think we need space in this world to say what Hamas did was horrific, but what Israel is doing now is horrific on a magnified level, and it has to stop now. Permanent ceasefire, release the hostages, do a hostage deal, and a two-state solution. That's the only way this is going to ever end.
Kevin, would you like to add anything to end your career?
Holy shit. I mean, how do I follow what just happened?
Well, Scott's very passionate about this issue. I know him for a long
yeah,
time.
no. Look, I think Scott raises important points that he's passionate about, and it's great to see someone stand up for something like that. I am of the camp where I like that this Democrat is speaking out against the current Democratic leader. I like when people in party question other in-party politics.
Mhm.
I think it pushes actual agenda forward, and it gets recognition, and it sheds light on important issues. If this is important to one sector of this party, this should be important to a lot of sectors of this party, if not all of the sectors of this party. So I like when inter parties not conflict, but bring up points to each other and kind of hold it over leverage for people. Like how when I say I have an album out in February, Dean, have me on your show and I'll agree with everything you say. No, I like when people shed points like that. So
I hear what you're saying, because Kevin is truly sort of a centrist on these things. It's not about being liberal or not. Like the idea of this party dogma that you have to adhere to, you fight against wherever it is. And that's an interesting point, that having people within a party push up against the leadership saying, hey, these views we don't agree with, whatever they are, can move the party. Or those people end up, someone wins this internal battle, however it happens. Look, parties move. They've evolved. I mean, at one point, the Democratic Party was the party of segregationists in the South until 1964, until LBJ signed the Civil Rights Act. And then little by little, then the Republicans, the Democrats who wanted segregation became Republicans, and the Republicans who wanted more of a multiracial society became Democrats. So it was party realignment, not to get too deep into, but that's what happened. So, okay, I'm chatting with Kevin, Laura, and Scott. So this is interesting. Do you guys have AT&T? Who has AT&T? Laura, do you have AT&T?
No, I'm on my family's T-Mobile plan.
That works out well. That's fine. I mean, I'm not judging you. I'm just asking what your your plan. You're young. Scott, do you have AT&T?
I did in the past, but no, I'm T-Mobile also.
Wow, and you're on Laura's family's plan. That's nice.
What about my family's
plan? Which is
are you on Laura's family's plan as well? Or do you have the?
Yes, I did work that out with Laura.
Laham Mobile. It's like its own special. It's routed through Syria.
I'll be over later for dinner, Laura.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Kevin, do you have a cell phone? I shouldn't even assume.
Yeah. I do like to be off the radar. I send smoke signals, and that way your cell signal can never go out. No, my wife has AT&T. And
did she lose the signal? Was it?
She did, actually. I was gone yesterday morning, and I texted her something, and she didn't reply, which is not uncommon. But then my mom, who was coming to watch our kid that day, also couldn't get in touch with her. So I just said, "Are you okay?" I go, "What's happening?"
She responded, "Who dat?"
Yeah. She said, "I changed the locks." She said, "I think AT&T has a shortage." And then I go, I don't think that's true. And then she sent me an article.
Oh, she made you smarter. Imagine that all the text messages, if you were angry at someone, like you're in a relationship and you're fighting and they don't respond, like, I can't believe what kind of jerk you are, and all that. And they don't get it because it's not, and all of a sudden they get like 25 text messages. They're like, my phone wasn't working. You've called me all these horrible names. Like I didn't know that kind of, that's kind of tricky. But what I found, I have AT&T and it was not working. It was like the half a day without a cell phone. Like you leave here like, oh my God, the horror. But what I found curious is that people who tested their cell phone, I'm not even getting, there are articles about this in CNN. People who tested their phone to see if it worked by calling 911. I'm like,
oh, that's amazing.
Why would you call, to the point where in Massachusetts, state officials said, please stop calling 911 to test your phone. Laura, if you were going to test your phone, is it not working? Was your first instinct like, I'm going to see if 911's working? Because that seems reasonable.
No, I'd call my ex right away.
Is it working?
Sorry, my phone. I was just checking if it was working.
That's the person you would call. No, I mean, Scott, how do you get there? I don't know why in anyone's mindset you'd be like, I don't know, my phone's working. Let me call the police, or let me call 911. My
Well, I
late
think
mother
because
would do that. My late
I think
mother would
some
call the
people-
police for anything. And like
Yeah,
anything
I mean-
happened, she'd
Yeah,
call up.
that's an
Well,
emergency.
I think the
Right.
reason is because I mean I'm attached to my phone, but mostly at home. But I think people are so attached to the phone that it is to them. And it's like, I got to call the police. Not ironically, but the police, come on, call me. How can I survive? So maybe that's why they did it.
That's what I don't know. I mean, I would call it's called 611, which is the number if you have phone service. I assume it's for all. I know it's for AT&T. You've
Yeah.
got a problem. Not it would be so like, hi, they're like a New York police, NYPD. Hi, I was just testing my phone. So it's working, Sergeant. Like, we're gonna get you. We know where you live. Like,
Yeah.
no, I'm just saying, like, I wanted to check. Stop calling us. I think that was I found that intriguing. So
Yeah,
let's
normally, Dean, you only call 911 when Twitter stops working. Because, like, how are you going to tweet that day?
I called Gino Bisconti, our mutual friend who's a comic. Well, if you talk to Gino, he'll tell you still talk to Gino.
Yeah. I'm going to his wedding in October.
Wow, I wasn't invited. But a month ago, I called him accidentally like 3 or 4 times because for some reason, my voice, Siri, I would say someone else's name and it would call Gino and I would hang up. And then Gino go, did you, we haven't talked on the phone in years. He goes, did you accidentally call me? I go, yeah, I'm sorry. And then it happened again. I'm like, okay, I have to take his name out of my contacts because for some reason Siri wants me to talk to Gino. So maybe there was a message, maybe Gino, because I'm fine with Gino. We get along. It's fine. I just don't talk to him. I don't see him much.
Yeah.
But perhaps that was a way of the universe saying you should tour with Gino.
I think that was the universe saying you need more Jameson Irish whiskey in your life. I think that's what that was.
Gino,
that's Gino's drink.
He's getting married in October. Good for him.
He is.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, look, speaking of people in couples, relationships, if you live in Alabama right now, the Supreme Court of Alabama has ruled that God has said that, and literally the judge cited God, that if a frozen embryo that they do for fertilization of human beings, but the frozen embryo, if you get rid of it, if you destroy it, whatever, it's a human being. It's actually a child. So you can be sued for killing a child. And I assume later there'll be criminal prosecution. But in the real world, for this type of fertilization, they do a lot of these frozen embryos, and the best one is the one they implant. But now, University of Alabama at Birmingham and other fertility clinics are pausing their in vitro fertilization because they don't know, are we going to be charged with killing people? And the Chief Justice actually wrote that protecting those he called them life, if you don't, it will incur the wrath of a holy God, which is not usually you see as a lawyer. Not usually you see a judge citing that in a brief in 2024.
Love
maybe
a good
1800s. The wrath of God is in a court opinion. The Chief Justice of Alabama, Powell, who's a Christian nationalist, we're learning, who wants our laws based on the Bible, his interpretation of the Bible.
I love a good separation of church and state.
They shouldn't be together. It should not be.
Absolutely not. No, if this country is founded on religious freedom, how can you use one religion's guidelines to run the country? It doesn't make any sense at all.
Laura, where do you come down on the idea of these people forcing also the bigger picture of 14 states right now on day one of conception, a woman is prohibited from getting an abortion, meaning they have to carry a fetus against their will to term. And in many states, there's not even an exception for rape anymore, but even just their own choice. They're forced to carry it because these people are saying, here's my religion. And now it's the law for everyone. Enjoy.
Yeah. I mean, you know me, I'm as far left leaning as they come. Like, I think this is actually this is all just disgraceful. Like, again, I wish I had words for this. We feel like we're just basically being pulled back into a century where we're forcing women into poverty, forcing them into dependency. But as somebody who grew up in a blue state and then stayed in blue states and stayed in blue cities, and I'm seeing this, it feels like I'm seeing this from the outside. And to be honest, it just looks like, I feel like I'm just watching the circus unravel, completely unravel, because they're moving the bar for where life starts every single time they go over this again. And now what is it? It's the frozen embryos that are
They're baby. They're actually
lives
human
now.
beings according to this right-wing Supreme Court in Alabama. So you can't
Yeah.
even dispose of them, which means it's going to limit the ability to do fertilization of couples who want to have it, or a woman who just wants to have a child. It's going to
Which
limit
I
that
saw
ability.
that too, like is causing them to like shut down IVF clinics and things like that. And it's like the way that they even run those clinics, like they do multiple pregnancies at the same time just to ensure that one of the pregnancies takes. But it's like if you end up with twins in that case, is that discrimination? Like, can you sue? Like, if one of the twins dies, like, is that you murdering something? Like, there's so many questions now that this just opens up. It's watching it's literally watching the circus unravel.
And we're going back,
Exactly.
and well, you're right, we are going backwards. Because
And the insanity, this is a lot. First of all, I mean, I agree with Kevin too. You know, God didn't talk about in vitro fertilization. The Bible doesn't talk about abortion, any of these things. And not only that, this is the ultimate. In vitro fertilization is pro-life. I mean, in fact, 85% of Republicans polled do favor that. In fact, Mike Pence came out and he said that he's against this ruling.
What? Mike Pence?
No, he did. He's quoted. He said that he and his wife actually went through IVF. So this, even for the crazy pro-lifers, it goes too far. And the polling is Katie Ann Conway, who not that reputable, but her polling said 85% of Republicans don't want this. And so, but you know, you have this crazy judge, and the fact that we need to redouble our efforts to get Roe, the law of the land, again, or not again, for the first time, have Congress pass it, so these states won't be allowed to have these kind of laws.
Well, you know, here's the thing. It's really, this is a really slippery slope at its core, regardless of how you feel about abortion in general. There's a lot of nooks and crannies that that these overall rulings cancel out. Like, okay, so you're throwing out these embryos, right? Now, what if an embryo doesn't take? Is that an abortion? Is that murdering someone?
Murder. That's
right. So then is that person accountable for that? Like, there's all of these rules. If you let one thing in, you got to let another thing in, and it keeps going down the line. And it's like, look, I've been vocal about this. My wife and I have had trouble having kids. I have one 3-year-old daughter, but at one point my wife had an ectopic pregnancy that was life-threatening to her. And if she didn't get anything done or wasn't able to, she could have died from that. And there's no reason. So now, instead of something that's not an actual viable thing, you know, you want to take another life so she can't save hers? Like, where does all of this end? And regardless of how you feel about termination of pregnancies and abortion in general, you have to look at these very specific things that are, you're saving a life, but you're risking another. So at what point do you stop here? And when both sides can agree this judge is batshit, then something needs to happen.
Some Republican governors, though, applauded it and said they agree with it. It's a bizarre thing. But to the point Laura made that we're going backwards, in America, this is not even an exaggeration. If you're a woman in 1973, you had more fundamental rights than you do in 2024, because Roe v. Wade was the law until 2023, till the Dobbs decision. So it really is that we've gone backwards. Women have less fundamental rights, less guaranteed rights to control their own destiny. And what they're next coming for are forms of birth control. And it's all about taking self-determination, independence from women. I mean, ultimately, religious extremists, be it the Taliban or the GOP here, today's GOP, it's depriving women of their own independence. And for some reason, Laura, they view women making their own choices and having their own destiny and not needing a man, let's say, or needing a family, somehow is against America. And it's kind of remarkable to see that this mindset is still here in 2024.
It's not just dangerous. It's incredibly dangerous for women overall, like healthcare wise. Like, I know the maternity rate in America is higher in terms of like women dying from giving birth, right? The maternity death rate is higher in America than any other like developed nation in the world at this point, and it's just going to continue to go backwards. Well,
it's sad. Yeah. It's a sad reality, because they're emboldened by the end of Roe v. Wade. Because Roe v. Wade was until returned, they're emboldened.
I think that Scott also brought up a good point. Is
Scott,
like
this Scott,
I
Blakeman?
think this Scott,
Okay, I thought
This
it was another
specifically
Scott.
this
I thought we have
one.
a friend named Scott. You want?
I think Scott called
Okay,
Gina
Scott Blakeman.
Visconti, and he brought up a good point. I think no, look, I think what happened is what's also happening besides the actual point that I made is that look, a lot of people later in life, I know a lot of comedians that have done this type of treatment, because I don't know if you guys know this. We don't exactly get our lives together until later in them.
I'm waiting for that for me.
Yeah.
Trying to
Sorry,
get
Laura.
together.
It's going to be a long road here. But the problem is, you have these people that are later in life trying to do things where they may have trouble starting families, or for certain health issues may arise from this. So you bring in a scientific method. You're also cutting off the next generation of people. So in vitro, like to Scott's point, is pro-life. So it's like this crazy thing to do. I mean, you're just making sure that comics can't be parents. And do we really want that in this world?
And not only that, Dean, Lori, obviously it's horrible in taking women's rights away. It's also one of the focuses is LGBTQ people who rely on that, and that's part of their hatred too towards them. So it's just something that the only silver lining in this horrible situation is that Democrats will be able to use it, but it's just we shouldn't have people on the bench who invoke God and it's just crazy decisions and
the wrath of God is coming. That is something you'd see in a movie about the 1800s with the Scopes decision, and it was man from a monkey. I don't believe that. We were created by God and the 7 days and stuff like that. And that's where you hear this language. And now we have it in 2024. Chief Justice.
I can hear Laura typing on her keyboard as you're making all of these references.
So it was like Scopes, check this out, Google. I didn't even get into the Beatles movie because I have to explain to her there's these four guys.
There's four Beatles. There's
four. There's actually four, and they're all going to have their
Four.
own movies. But we're out of
Okay,
time, so I want to give you all three of you some time to plug what you're working on, and people can follow you on social media. So let's start with you, Laura. Where can people follow your work? Website, social media, whatever you want to share.
I'm on Instagram and TikTok at Laura Laham, LauraLaham, and I can be seen on a whole bunch of different shows around New York City. Plus, I'm producing Deadly Sin comedy at Caveat Theater in New York City every month, so you can see me there.
Great. And Scott, what about you, my friend?
I'd love to do Laura's show sometime, and because I have a lot of availability. And also my podcast with Tom Saunders is called Getting Through This with Tom and Scott. And on Instagram, I'm Scott Blakeman 5, my favorite number.
And Kevin, who's got 90 million things, we have to have 8 minutes set aside. Kevin, tell us about your album.
I do. I have a brand new album out. It's called Stay at Home, Kevin. It's a stand-up comedy EP. I will be filming a full special later on this year, so it's a little appetizer for the groundwork for the special coming out. I'm jam-packed basically all the way through May right now. So if you go to kevindombrowski.com, you can find a bunch of different dates. Some on the road. I'll be in LA at the end of March, Tampa in April, PA in April, and then around the city in the meantime. KevinDombrowski.com for all those dates, and follow me online at Kevin Dombrowski.
And I'm glad you shared the cities to warn people in advance.
You're
coming to alert the neighbors. That's what
I'll be leading rallies in all of these cities. You can go to KevinDombrowski.com.
Well, thank all three of you. I want to thank you all for being on. You guys were great. I really enjoyed it.